Elijah, very good afternoon to you. So the reason behind this decision?
Well, we're aligning ourselves with what has already been announced by the President when the adjustments were made in terms of the activities that can happen and how those should happen. So every time there's an adjustment, we also look at our own directions which guide schools on how to conduct different activities in schools, and then we consult and then go out with the new directions, which then provide leadership and guidance on schools regarding the different activities.
There's been a concern, obviously, of a third wave of COVID-19 infections. Was that in consideration when this decision was made?
Indeed. Everything that we do in conjunction with the rest of the government. We are guided by the Disaster Management Act regulations, which then inform the directions that are issued for the basic education sector. Everything that we do is done after that, so we follow, basically. We don't decide on our own regarding a public health matter when we are in the basic education sector. So we take the advice of the experts who would have felt the need to make those adjustments, which are always announced publicly, and we then look at our schools and say, what is it that we can permit? And then we inform the sector accordingly.
There is still a decision to be made on when full-time scholarship attendance or school attendance is going to be taking place. What's going to be considered in that decision?
A whole range of things. The starting point is that the learning losses are way too much to bear. There's a lot of losses that have been incurred in the sector. Children are struggling, and the teachers are also raising concerns that the rotation system is no longer working. And we felt as well that as a sector we needed to begin a conversation on what can be done to try arrest the situation that is currently happening and it's impacting the sector negatively. So we are now deliberating on what to do, but the first prize is really to have the children back in school attending all at once. However, that needs to be done responsibly because we still have the coronavirus around us, and it means that we also need to continue to observe the health and safety protocols, which include wearing the mask, social distancing, and more so inside the classroom, that 1.5 meter distance. So for us to be able to go through that whole process, we need to make sure that we consult all the relevant stakeholders and forward a proposal, and then we'll be told what's possible or not. But we're focusing only for now on primary school learners because that's where the losses are huge, but also that's where the impact is less in terms of COVID-19 management.
I would like to take you to back to my question of the third wave. So initially, when the coronavirus, essentially peaked in this country a year ago, the Education Department, like everything else in South Africa, was not really sure how it was going to deal with things in ensuring that people are kept safe. But now that we're a year into this pandemic, I would like to imagine that the department is better prepared. So should a third wave emerge, what are the plans from the Education Department to ensure that schooling firstly does continue, but that pupils are also protected?
We have learned some experiences from last year, 2020. Initially, there was a lot of panic because all of us had not experienced the situation as we did last year. But we learned some lessons on how schools can be safely reopened. And the greatest thing that needs to happen is adherence to the protocols, wearing of masks. In fact, even the research that we've seen shows that masks save lives. So it means we'll need to continue to monitor the adherence in terms of those protocols. So that's what we need to do, but also social distancing. The third wave will be guided by the Department of Health on what needs to be done, and we'll follow suit. As indicated earlier, that in the sector, we are experts in education, but not in health. We provide the health department with data from education, and they give us a perspective from a health point of view, and then we're able to agree on what needs to be done. The third wave, we don't know how big that is going to be, whether it will necessitate to schools being closed. But at the right time, when we're informed that we are in it, if it ever comes, we will then have to sit together and say, what then can we do? Who do we prioritize? Do we keep schools open? If we close, is it for everyone, or we allow certain grades to go to school? Because that option of allowing grade 12s and grade 7s last year, it really worked wonders, because that one grade had the use of the entire school on their own, which means some form of education was continuing. In the high school as well, the grade 12s were able to finish the curriculum, even with the COVID situation. So that experience has assisted us. So we believe that we can build on that should a need arise for schools to be impacted negatively, forcefully by COVID-19 and the third wave that you've mentioned.
I know that these changes, Elijah, that have been introduced now are more focused, as also you've mentioned, on primary school education and how you guys can manage that. But I want to just look at matriculants, and because obviously this largely affected them last year, where matric exams went on into December and results were released a lot later than they usually are, which is the first week of January. With or without the third wave, Elijah, can it be confidently said that the Basic Education Department can ensure that matric exams are written within the normal time that we know pre-COVID, and that results will be given out early in January as we know them to be?
Of course, the plan that we have, the management plan that we have for the this year, for 2021, for matric, is that things should run as normal. That's why if you look at what's happening today, right now, as I'm speaking to you, our Director General is in the Northwest Province, where he's monitoring the autumn camps, which have been created to assist grade 12 learners with their studies. So everyone else is closed, excuse me, but they are not closed. They are studying, they are being assisted by specialists, because we want to try and do as much work as possible so that there's no delay in any way. They must finish the curriculum, they must write the exam at the right time so that we can issue the results at the normal time. So that's what we are planning for, and nothing else. But of course, the coronavirus, the way it has worked in the past year, has forced a lot of us to do things that we never thought we'd do before. But this time, with that experience of a year behind us, we should be able to do things slightly differently and better, because we've now understood how it behaves, but most importantly, what people should do to protect themselves against the coronavirus.
Elijah, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is the spokesperson of the Basic Education Department, Elijah Mhlanga.